Chicago was buried. The snow came down heavy, the kind that muffles the city until it is dead quiet, inside the ember line. The quiet is manufactured. It is controlled. I control it. I was in the security office, the penthouse level, watching the feeds on the monitors. The ember line is my club, and I see everything that moves within its walls. Most screens showed civilized clientele, glass clinking, velvet ropes respected. Then, the B2 garage feed flickered. It was on the infrared setting. A figure appeared, moving wrong. It was a drag, a painful shuffle. I knew that limp. Riley Carter. She's one of the night shift emergency medical technicians who works the trauma centers nearby. She has patched up my guys a few times, off the books. She's independent, tough, and she never, ever accepts a discount at the bar. Tonight, she was dragging herself toward the service elevator. Her dark hair was plastered to her face, wet with snow or sweat. Even in the grayscale of the infrared, I could see the trail she left behind her. A steady, rhythmic drip. Drip, drip of black dots on the pale concrete floor. I leaned closer to the monitor. I hit the zoom toggle. The image pixelated, but the details were sharp enough for me. Her standard-issue paramedic jacket was torn at the left shoulder, a clean rip. A dark smear, lipstick, was dragged across her cheek, but it was going the wrong way. It was not the smear of a hand wiping away tears. It was dragged upward, violently, toward her ear. The angle was unnatural. The angle told me someone had shoved her face, hard, against the wall. I did not wait. I did not send security. I took my private elevator down. The service bay doors on level B2 are steel and silent. They hissed open just as she was jabbing the button for the lift, her hand shaking. I stepped out. She flinched, a full-body recoil that sent a fresh wave of pain across her face. She looked terrible. The sharp antiseptic smell of her work clothes, the smell of sanitizer and sterile gauze, was cut with the metallic, copper tang of her own blood. She tried to straighten up, tried to hide the pain, pulling her torn jacket closed. She was breathing shallow, through her mouth. Her eyes were wide, defiant and terrified all at once. I looked at my watch. The second hand was sweeping. "You have 5 seconds." I said. My voice was low, flat. This was not a negotiation. "Who beat you?" Her jaw tightened. "I fell." The lie was instant, automatic. It was also insulting. I stepped closer. I did not touch her. I pointed with my chin toward her throat. "You fell." I repeated the word, tasting the stupidity of it. "You fell against a man's fingertips hard enough to leave 4 distinct bruises precisely where a hand would grip your throat." Her hand flew to her neck, a protective gesture. I continued. "You fell on your face, and somehow the sole of a man's boot printed itself on your shoulder blade. I saw the feed. Riley." I tilted my head. "And this?" I tapped my own suit jacket, indicating the fine, white-gray powder dusting her torn sleeve. "That is concrete dust. From the ceiling, from the B2 sub-level storage area, you fell up." She said nothing. Her silence was louder than a scream. She was afraid. I knew this kind of fear. It was not just the fear of an attacker. It was the fear of reprisal. I did not give her a choice. I keyed my radio, a small device in my palm. "Jonas, B2 service elevator, now." I paused. "And get Dr. Marquez. Tell her it is a high-priority consult. My office, 3 minutes." Riley tried to protest. "I do not need a doctor. I am fine." "You are bleeding on my floor," I said, "and you are a terrible liar." I gestured to the open elevator. "You can ride up with me, or Jonas can carry you. It makes no difference to me." She stared at me, her breath catching. She knew Jonas Hale. He is my head of security. He's a man who does not ask twice. She limped past me into the elevator. The ride up was silent. Just the sound of her ragged breathing and the soft hydraulic whir of the mechanism. Dr. Elena Marquez is not a gentle woman. She is a forensic professional. She is methodical. She is the one who tells me how my enemies died. Tonight. She was telling me how Riley lived. I gave her the penthouse bathroom. It is large enough, and the light is bright. I stood in the doorway, watching Elena work. She was gentle, clinically so. Riley sat on the marble counter, flinching as Elena cleaned the cut on her hairline. "This is not a fall. Luca," Elena said, her voice clipped. She did not look at me. She held a small swab up to the light, the bruising on her throat, the petechia in her eyes. "This is manual asphyxiation. Someone tried to squeeze the life out of her. He was strong." Elena moved to the tear in Riley's jacket. She worked at it with a pair of tweezers. "I found this," she said, plucking something free. It was a fiber, dark, almost black. "Wool," Elena said, sniffing the fiber delicately. "And it smells heavy, like Cavendish tobacco." I frowned. "We do not allow that brand in the Ember line. The smoke is too sweet, too thick. It ruins the whiskey. It clings to the velvet." "There is more," Elena said. She pointed to Riley's hands. She fought back. "I have skin scrapings from under her nails, and this." I had sent Jonas down to B2 while Elena was working. I told him to check the access panel near where I estimated Riley had been attacked. He returned as Elena was taping Riley's ribs. He dropped 2 clear evidence bags onto the polished wood of my desk. The first bag held a small, crumpled scrap of gray duct tape. "Found this stuck to the floor near the wall," Jonas said. His voice is always a low rumble. "It has the same white powder Riley has. Plaster dust. Looks like it came from the pipe repair access panel. Someone opened it recently." The second bag was a photograph. Jonas knows his work. A clear, perfect boot print, captured in the plaster dust near that panel. "That," I said, tapping the glass of my desk, "is the problem." Jonas nodded. He knew what I meant. "It is a size 44, maybe 45. The tread pattern is a chevron, like a military boot." I looked at Jonas. He understood. "My security team, his security team, wears custom-soled boots. They are uniform. The soles are round, tactical, non-slip, knee." This chevron print did not belong to my staff. This was an outsider who knew how to get to the B2 level. Riley was standing in the doorway of my office, pale, holding a chemical ice pack to her ribs. She was listening. "He will be back," I said, my voice quiet. "Whoever he is. He did not finish what he started." I made the offer. It was the only logical next step. "I have a place, a safe house, several. You will be protected. You will be comfortable. Elena will check on you." She shook her head immediately. The motion was sharp, and it clearly caused her pain. "No," she said. Her voice was stronger now, fueled by a stubbornness I recognized. "I am not your property. I will not be your protected asset." She looked at me, her eyes clear. "I do not owe you anything, Santoro." I understood it. I run a world built on favors, on debts. To accept my help was to be entangled. She was an emergency medical technician. She saved lives. She did not want to be saved. She was afraid of the strings. I sighed. I was getting impatient. The man who did this was still out in my city. "Riley, I cannot protect you if I do not know who I am protecting you from. Give me a name, just a name." Duh. She stood up too fast, trying to prove she was fine. She winced, grabbing her side. "I cannot," she said, her voice desperate. "He will. You do not understand. Adrian Morrison is not." She stopped. She covered her mouth, her eyes wide with panic. The name just hung in the air of my office. Adrian Morrison. The blood in my veins turned to ice. Every sound in the penthouse stopped. The hum of the ventilation, the clink of ice in my glass on the desk, everything. I turned to face her. I felt nothing. My face was numb. "Morrison," I said. The name tasted like ash in my mouth. "That is the name he uses for his dummy corporations, the ones registered in the Caymans." Riley's eyes widened. She did not understand. She did not know what she had just said. I looked past her, out the floor-to-ceiling window, at the snow piling up on the Chicago skyline. "Morrison is the lie," I said. "The truth is his name. He is Adrian Santoro." I looked back at her. The color had drained completely from her face. The investigation was no longer about a stranger. The war was no longer outside. "He's my brother. The silence in my penthouse office was absolute. It was heavier and colder than the Chicago snow piling up against the windows. Riley just stared at me, her face a mask of pale confusion. Dr. Elena Marquez stopped packing her medical kit. Jonas Hale, my head of security, did not even blink. He just watched me. My brother, Adrian Santoro, the name I had not spoken aloud in this building, not once, since I took over. He is the blood I do not claim, the ghost at the table. Riley, I said, my voice dangerously calm. This changes things. This is no longer a random assault. This is family business. She flinched at the word family. I saw her take a half step back toward the door. Her fear of me, of my world, was battling the immediate terror of what Adrian had done to her. No, she whispered. I want to go. I cannot be part of this. You already are, I said, not unkindly. I turned to Jonas. The safe house is no longer an offer. It is a necessity. Take her to the Lakeshore penthouse, a standard lockdown. You and 2 men, rotating shifts. No one else gets near her. Not even me, unless she asks for me. Riley stiffened. I will not be your prisoner. You will be a guest, I countered, meeting her gaze. A guest who cannot leave for her own safety. You saw what he did. He did that to you in my building. He knew the cameras. He knew the layout. That was not a warning. Riley, that was a failure. He failed to silence you. He will not fail twice. She looked at Jonas, then at me. She was trapped. She knew it. She finally gave a small, defeated nod. Jonas, I said, turning my attention to him, before you move her, I want her phone. Riley's hand instinctively went to her pocket. Why? Because my brother is not stupid, or he's just reckless. If he has been this close to you, I need to know how close. She handed it over, a standard smartphone. I passed it to Jonas, who pulled a small, shielded bag from his jacket and dropped the phone inside. Run a full diagnostic. Look for any new software. Anything suspicious, especially battery-saving apps or system updates, she did not authorize. Jonas nodded. Understood, Elena. You ride with us. Dr. Marquez looked at me. She needs rest, and I need to run the toxicology on the skin cells I collected from under her nails. See if I can get a profile. Do it, I said. Go, now. They left. Riley did not look back. The door to my office clicked shut, leaving me alone in the quiet. I did not rest. I went to the large whiteboard I keep behind a panel of smoked glass. I grabbed a black marker. Work begins. First, the timeline. My security feed archives are flawless. I pulled the data. I wrote it out. 0040, Riley Carter clocks out of her shift at Chicago General. 0051, her phone, now in Jonas's possession, receives an incoming call. The number is unavailable. The call lasts 20 seconds, 0056, and 17 seconds. The camera feed in the B2 garage, quadrant 4, goes static, not black, static, jammed, 0057 and 34 seconds. The feed returns, 17 seconds of blindness, 0103. Riley appears on the service elevator camera, the one I saw first. I stared at the numbers, from 51 to 03. That is 12 minutes. But the attack itself, it happened in that 17-second window. Efficient, brutal, planned. I capped the marker. It was time for the board. I drew 4 quadrants. At the top, I wrote the name that burned my tongue. Adrian Santoro. He's the prime suspect. He's the one she named. Motive with Adrian. It could be anything. A perceived slight. Money, boredom. He's a creature of impulse and violence, cloaked in expensive suits. Second quadrant, I wrote Neil Ramirez. Lieutenant Neil Ramirez, Chicago Police Department. Ramirez and Adrian came up together. They run in the same circles. Ramirez has a talent for making evidence disappear, for making witnesses recant, for making inconvenient reports get buried in bureaucratic sludge. If Adrian wanted to hurt someone and have no comeback, Ramirez would be his first call. Third quadrant, Reeves. He's a loan shark, a brute who manages a high-interest lending operation on the west side. I know for a fact that Adrian uses him as a front for some of his more predatory investments. Reeves is all muscle. He uses violence as a business strategy. He's exactly the kind of man who would wear a size 44 chevron tread boot. Fourth quadrant, I just drew a large X. This was the internal accomplice, the person who jammed my camera, the person who knew Riley's schedule, the person who let the attacker into B2. I drew lines connecting them. Adrian, the center. He uses Reeves for muscle. He uses Ramirez for cleanup. And he used X for access. My private line buzzed. It was Jonas. He was at the safe house. "She is secure," he said. "Elena is with her. And you were right about the phone." "Tell me." "A piece of stalkerware," Jonas said, "disguised as a software update, Battery Saver Pro. It was installed 2 days ago. It gave him full access. Microphone, camera, global positioning system. He knew where she was, always. He probably heard her clock out. He knew she would be in the garage. I whispered, he was waiting. There is more. Luca, I ran the keycard logs for the B2 service door, the one near the attack. And one access, Jonas said, 0055, 1 minute before the camera jammed. Whose card? It was a kitchen VIP card, registered to the cold storage manager. But that does not make sense. The kitchen staff use the main freight elevator. They have no reason to be in the B2 parking bay. Not at that hour. He did not use his own card, I said. He used a ghost, a borrowed card. Smart. Did you speak to the manager? I'm sending 2 men now, Jonas said, quietly. Good. Keep digging on that card. Now, run the diagnostic on the stalkerware. Find its origin. I want the internet protocol address it is reporting to. Already on it. He paused. Luca. Elena also found something when she was cleaning Riley's hands. Riley remembered something. A smell. Just before the attack, she said she smelled cedarwood, the kind you find in high-end humidors or expensive closets. Cedarwood. I looked at my board. Reeves. Reeves smokes those thick, foul Cavendish cigars. I had the fiber, and now cedar. It was a strange combination. As if summoned by the thought, my personal phone vibrated on the desk. A new message. Unknown number. It was short. 5 words. Stop digging. You owe blood. I stared at the text, the punctuation. You owe blood. A simple period, an American-style sentence. This was not one of my family's old-world lawyers who would have used 3 commas and a semicolon. This was not a corporate threat. This was street, direct, confident. My desk line rang again. Jonas, and he had not hung up. Luca, my men are sweeping B2 again. My preliminary report was incomplete. The plaster dust on the floor. It is fresh, very fresh. The access panel for the water pipes near where she was attacked. The bolts were recently turned. There are fresh marks from a wrench on the fittings. Someone was in that wall. Today. The jammer, I said. He did not just walk in and turn it on. He planted it inside the wall. He knew the building's schematics. This was deeper than I thought. This was not just my brother's impulsive rage. This was a conspiracy. I told Jonas to seal B2. No one in, no one out. Treat it as a contaminated site. I walked to the window. The snow was relentless. I was moving Riley from one cage to another. I had told her she would be a guest, but she was right. She was my prisoner. She had refused my help because she was afraid of the strings. And now, because of my blood, she was entangled in chains. I had to give her something back. I had to give her back the control Adrian had stolen. I called the safe house, Jonas answered. Put her on Wars, I said. A moment of silence, then her voice, small, wary. Hello? Riley, it is Luca. I kept my voice even. Jonas found the tracking software on your phone. You were not paranoid. He was watching you. He was listening. I heard her sharp intake of breath. It was the sound of violation. I am setting a trap. I said, a financial one. My brother is greedy. I am going to create a deal, an opportunity to launder a large sum of money, and I am going to make sure he is the only one who finds it. I will draw him out, but that is my world. I paused. This is about your world. The man who put his hands on you. I will find him, but I will not move without your consent. You are not a pawn in my game. You are the victim, and you will be the survivor. I will present you with the evidence. I will tell you my plan, and you will give me the yes or no. Do you understand me?" There was a long silence on the line. I could hear her breathing. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why give me that power?" "Because he took all your power away in that garage," I said, "and it is the only way I know how to get it back for you." "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." I hung up. I sat at my desk for an hour, just thinking, replaying the timeline, the card, the cedar, the tobacco. Then Jonas returned. He was alone. He was holding one more clear evidence bag. He placed it on my desk. "We found this, boss, on the railing of the B2 stairwell, near the jammer site. He must have dropped it." I looked inside. It was a lighter, heavy, polished steel, bespoke, on the side, laser engraved, was a single stylized image. A fox. I picked up the bag. I knew this lighter. It was from a custom shop in the Gold Coast. They only made 100 of them a year. And I knew, with absolute certainty, one fact that changed everything. Adrian Santoro does not use bespoke lighters. He carries a cheap, battered Zippo. He always has. He says it makes him look humble. This fox lighter did not belong to my brother. The board was wrong, or at least it was incomplete. I had the hook. Now I just had to pull. I held the evidence bag with the fox lighter up to the light of my desk lamp. The steel was cold. The engraving was precise. This was not a clue Adrian left. This was a mistake. This was a breadcrumb dropped by someone else. Someone arrogant. Someone who liked expensive toys. I buzzed Jonas on the intercom. He was back in the security hub, running diagnostics. "The jammer," I said. "Report." "Cheap." Jonas's voice crackled back. $20 piece of junk. Barely military spec. It is not professional. It is the kind of thing an amateur buys online. He paused. But he was bold. Luca. He did not just jam the signal. He opened the junction box. He knew exactly which wires to hit. He is an amateur, but he is a brazen one. And he had internal help. This confirmed my X theory. An insider. I looked at my board. The clues were a mess. Cavendish tobacco, cedar wood, a size 44 boot. I thought about Reeves, the loan shark. The Cavendish fiber pointed straight at him. He's always chewing on one of those unlit, sweet-smelling cigars, but Cedar Reeves smelled of stale beer and engine oil. His safe houses were damp basements, not high-end closets lined with cedar. It felt wrong. It was a distraction, a red herring. The universe does not just hand you the answer like that. I needed to focus on the access. "Jonas," I said, "the VIP card, the one used at 0055, the cold storage manager." "We picked him up." Jonas said, "He is clean." He was terrified. He said his card has been missing for 2 days. He thought he just lost it. He was too scared to report it. And he did not lose it. It was stolen. I said, "Run the registration on that card. I want the name." A few seconds of typing. The card was issued to a VIP account. Name is Zora Cade. My blood ran a little colder. Zora Cade. She is Adrian's lawyer, his financial shield, the one who structures the Morrison shell companies. If Zora was here, I said, thinking aloud. She was not. Jonas cut me off. I ran her name as soon as it popped. Her car service is one of ours. Her driver's log and the car's global positioning system show she has been at the Peninsula Hotel all night. She checked in at 8. Never left her room. Her card was here, but she was not. So, someone stole her card, I said. Or, more likely, she gave it to someone. Someone she trusts. Someone who works for my brother. This was getting dirtier. Adrian was not acting alone. He had his lawyer providing access and a cop, Ramirez, providing cover, Tio. The fox lighter. I could not shake it. I knew that fox. I pulled up a browser on my monitor. "Jonas, what do you know about a speakeasy called Fox and Cedar?" "I know it," Marhi said. "Downtown, exclusive. Smells like a lumberyard inside. They finished the walls with raw cedar planks. It is a cop bar. High-end brass only. Judges, lieutenants. Ramirez, I said. It was not a question. He is a regular, Jonas confirmed. He practically lives there. The fox is their logo. I looked at the lighter. A bespoke souvenir from a cop bar. A gift, perhaps, for a valued customer. A customer like Neil Ramirez. A customer who might have dropped it while planting a cheap jammer in my wall. My private line buzzed. The secure one, it was the penthouse. Dr. Elena Marquez. Riley is awake, she said. Her voice was low. She is agitated. She remembered something, not a sight, a sound. Put her on. I waited. I heard a shaky breath. Luca? I am here, Riley. The sound, she said, her voice thin. Just before he grabbed me, I heard a whistle. I thought it was just the wind in the garage, but it was not. It was high. 3 notes, quick, like someone calling a dog. I closed my eyes. I knew that whistle. Every guard in the Emberline knows it. It is not for a dog. It is the audio signal, the 3-note code we use to call the internal service elevator manually when the comms are down. Thank you, Riley, I said, my voice tight. That is, very helpful. Get some rest. I hung up and immediately dialed Jonas. The whistle. She heard the whistle. Jonas swore, a rare burst of emotion. The service elevator code. That proves it. It was one of our own. Who was on duty in B2 last night on the patrol route? Checking the roster, Jonas said. The typing was faster now. 2 veterans and 1 new guy, a rookie, hired 6 weeks ago. Jonas went quiet. Oh, hell, here he is. Marcus Thorne. Written up 3 weeks ago. Why for sharing his internal passcodes with a bartender so she could get into the liquor storage? He was suspended for 2 days. We should have fired him. No, I said. You should have. But he is the perfect target for my brother. A disgruntled employee with access, a history of being careless and probably in debt. Exa finally had a name. Marcus Thorne. I felt a cold rage settle over me. This was not just an attack. It was a violation of my house, my own people. I needed to check my own inventory. If Thorne gave them access, if Ramirez was the muscle, that smell... Cavendish. The fiber Elena found. It was a cigar, yes, but it was also something else. I walked out of my office, down the private stairs, and into the main bar of the Emberline. It was 4 a.m. The club was silent, smelling of lemons and old whiskey. I went behind the bar, to the top shelf, the rare collection. And I saw it, the empty space. There is a particular whiskey we carry, a 25-year-old single malt, infused with Cavendish tobacco leaves. It is a ridiculous, expensive bottle. We sell maybe 1 glass a month. I kept it as a curiosity. It was gone. The man who attacked Riley, the man I now believed was Neil Ramirez, had stopped on his way out to steal a $3,000 bottle of whiskey. This was not a panicked attack. This was arrogance. This was a signature. He was leaving me a message. I went back to my office. It was time to push back. My first call was to my lawyer, not the family consigliere, my personal lawyer, Maya Kaplan. She answered on the second ring. Maya, I said, I need you to file an emergency temporary restraining order, Riley Carter versus Adrian Morrison. On what grounds, she asked, already awake. Assault, stalking, malicious software. I'm sending you Jonas's report on her phone and Elena's medical files. I want it filed by 9 a.m. I want him served. Publicly, if possible. Luca, poking Adrian with a legal stick? I am not poking him. I said, I am building a cage. If he violates that order, if he so much as sends her a text message, he is in the system, his system. And Ramirez cannot make it go away. It is a shield for her. Do it. Done, she said. My second call was to my asset manager. I need to launder $10 million, I said. He did not ask why. How clean? Filthy, I said. I want to do it through a series of non-fungible token trades, the stupidest, ugliest ape pictures you can find. I want it to look like a panic move, desperate. And I want you to leak the opportunity. Send the wallet information anonymously to a specific, unsecured server based in Miami. I am sending you the address now." I knew that address. It was the server my brother used for his back-channel deals, the one he thought I did not know about. It was the bait. He could not resist easy money. The counter moves had been made. Now, the blowback. It came, as it always does. Not from the front, but from the side. My head of floor security called my private line. "Boss," he said, his voice worried, "there is a rumor starting. In the clubs downtown. It is spreading fast." "What rumor?" "They are saying the girl, the emergency medical technician. They are saying she is a federal informant, that she is working with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that the attack was a setup." I closed my eyes. My uncle, Alessandro, was not stupid. He knew I was investigating. He did not want me digging into family business, especially not Adrian. So he was doing what he does best. He was poisoning the well. He was trying to isolate Riley, to make her toxic, to make anyone helping her look like a traitor. As if on cue, my father's consigliere, Pietro, called. His voice was old, smooth, and tired. "Luca," he said, "a word from your uncle." "I am listening." "Pietro. He is concerned. This investigation into your brother, it is destabilizing, it is unseemly. He is asking as a family favor that you let this matter drop. The girl was compensated. It is over, for the good of the family." I looked at the empty space on my whiteboard, the space where Riley's blood had dripped onto my floor. "Pietro," I said, my voice perfectly calm, "you tell my uncle that the good of the family requires me to find the man who bled on my floor. You tell him that Adrian is a rabid dog, and I am going to put him down." I hung up the phone. The lines were drawn. The game was set. La Volta was my territory. The private dining room upstairs, the one reserved for family, was heavy with a silence that the thick carpets could not absorb. The snowstorm outside the windows was a silent, swirling white, cutting us off from the rest of Chicago. Tonight. The only sounds were the deliberate click of heavy silver forks on porcelain and the scrape of my Uncle Alessandro's chair as he shifted his weight. He was sitting at the head of the table. It was a seat he only took when he felt I was failing in my duties. Pietro Vescari, our family's consigliere for longer than I had been alive, sat to my right. He looked ancient. My cousins, men with thick necks and quiet eyes, filled the other chairs. They were eaters, not thinkers, and they watched me. One chair, directly across from mine, remained empty. Adrian's chair? We had waited 20 minutes. I had not expected him to show up on time. I had not really expected him to show up at all. I placed my linen napkin on the table next to my untouched plate. "We are not waiting." The room stilled. Even the waiters froze by the wall. I looked at my uncle. I looked at Pietro. I looked at the cousins. I called this dinner to ask one question. I let the silence hang, heavy as the snow. "Who beat Riley Carter?" Alessandro scoffed. He is a large man, and the sound was like a bellows leaking air. "Luca, we spoke of this. Pietro delivered my message. This is a distraction, a street girl. You bring the entire family to La Volta. For this woman who is probably an informant." "She is not an informant," I said, my voice dangerously level. "That rumor was your creation. Uncle, a clumsy attempt to make me back off. You are losing your touch." Alessandro's face darkened, but I did not give him time to speak. I was running this room. "I asked who," I continued, "but I won't have spent the last day finding the answer. The man who attacked her, in my building, left things behind. He was arrogant. He was sloppy." I leaned forward, my hands flat on the table. He left a single fiber of dark Cavendish tobacco on her jacket. He left the distinct smell of cedar wood on her skin. He left the print of a size 44 chevron tread boot in a patch of fresh plaster dust. He used a cheap jammer, bought online for $20, to block my security camera for exactly 17 seconds. I looked around the table. My cousins just looked confused. Pietro was listening. Alessandro was simmering. "He also used a stolen keycard to access the B2 level. I went on. A VIP kitchen card. It was registered to Zora Cade. At the mention of Adrian's lawyer, a few of the cousins shifted. But Zora Cade, I said, was across town at the Peninsula Hotel all night. Her driver's log and her car's global positioning system confirm it. So the card was borrowed, or it was given. This tells me two things. The attacker was an amateur, using a cheap device and leaving a trail of physical evidence. But he had insider knowledge. He knew the building. He knew the camera locations. And he had access to Zora Cade's resources. The door to the private room opened. Adrian Santoro walked in. He was smiling. His expensive wool coat brushed free of snow by a waiting attendant. He was the picture of unearned confidence. He smelled of expensive cologne in the cold night air. "Brother," he said, spreading his hands in a gesture of false apology. "My apologies. I was held up. A poker game at the Union League. You know how it is. What did I miss?" "We were just discussing your schedule, Adrian," I said, He laughed. A sharp, unpleasant sound. "My schedule, I told you, poker." He reached into his suit jacket, pulled out a crumpled receipt, and tossed it onto the center of the table. It slid across the polished wood. "I cashed out an hour ago. $5,000. Ask them. I was there all night." I did not pick up the receipt. I did not need to. I glanced at it from my chair. "You have always been sloppy with the details. Adrian, it is your weakness." I tapped the receipt. "This is time-stamped and universal time coordinated. It is the default setting for their international servers, the one they use for accounting. It is 7 hours ahead of Chicago time. This receipt says you cashed out at 10 in the morning. Tomorrow, it is a fake, a bad one." Adrian's smile did not just falter, it evaporated. He slid into his empty chair, his eyes narrowing. "This is ridiculous. You are accusing me." "I am not finished," I said. I signaled to Jonas, who was standing just inside the doorway, motionless. Jonas stepped forward. He placed a clear evidence bag on the table. Inside was the small, gray scrap of duct tape that Elena had peeled from Riley's jacket. "You see this fine white dust?" I asked the table. "It is plaster. It matches perfectly. The dust from the B2 sublevel, from a specific pipe fitting that was recently repaired." I turned my gaze back to Adrian. "The emergency repair order for that pipe was approved last week by Lieutenant Neil Ramirez, and Ramirez, conveniently, has a master key to the B2 level, the same Neil Ramirez who frequents the Fox and Cedar, the same Neil Ramirez who carries a bespoke lighter with a fox engraved on it, the same Neil Ramirez who wears a size 44 chevron tread boot." I anticipated my uncle's defense. "We did look at Reeves," I said. "He smokes Cavendish. It is true, but his men wear steel-toed work boots. The tread does not match. He is a brute, but he is not our man. He was a distraction, a red herring." I leaned back, letting the weight of the evidence settle in the room. "So, we have a conspiracy. My brother, Adrian Santoro, provided the access, the key card, and the target. His associate, Neil Ramirez, provided the muscle. You wanted to silence Riley Carter. You failed." I looked directly at Adrian. His face was pale. "I am offering you 3 choices," I said. The room was so quiet I could hear the wine breathing in Pietro's glass. 1. You are exiled. You leave Chicago tonight. All your assets in my territory. All the money you skimmed from the Morrison accounts are forfeit. 2. You pay compensation directly to her, enough to set her up for life, a life away from us, away from here, and you check yourself into a residential treatment program I choose. In Switzerland, you get help, you fix yourself. 3, I said, my voice dropping. I call Maya Kaplan. I tell her to proceed with a full, Public Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, filing against you. I will cite the evidence from the stalkerware on Riley's phone. I will cite the assault. I will cite the financial crimes I already know you committed. I will give the federals your head on a platter. I will burn your entire life to the ground." Adrian laughed. It was a strangled, broken sound. "You would do that to me, your own blood." he sneered, trying to regain his confidence. Over that lying emergency medical technician, she probably fell, just like she said. She is looking for a payday. Luca, can you not see it? She is not, I said. I pulled a folded piece of paper from my own jacket pocket. This is Riley Carter's personal log. She wrote this in the safe house, before Dr. Marquez even arrived. She is a trained professional. She describes her own injuries. I unfolded the paper. She writes, manual pressure applied to the carotid sinus, causing temporary vagal response, blunt force trauma to the 7th and 8th ribs, posterior suspected hairline fracture, ligature-style bruising consistent with digital compression. I placed the paper on the table. She did not write, he grabbed my neck. She wrote that is not a lie. Adrian, that is a diagnosis. Adrian's face was white. He was trapped. The evidence was a perfect circle. He looked at me, his eyes full of pure venom. She is lucky she is alive at all. He spat. She's lucky that stupid camera shut off right when it did. Dead silence. My cousin stopped eating. Pietro froze, his wine glass halfway to his lips. Alessandro looked up, finally understanding. I smiled. It was not a nice smile. The camera, you are right, Adrian, it did shut off. I looked around the table, making eye contact with every man. The only people in this city who knew that camera shut off for 17 seconds were me, Jonas Hale, and the man who shut it off. Adrian realized what he had done. He stood up so fast his chair crashed backward onto the floor. You tricked me. You set me up. Alessandro roared, finding his voice. Enough, he is your brother. Luca, he is blood. You will not do this. You will not shame this family over a woman. He shamed the family when he attacked her in my club, I shot back, my voice rising to match his. He shamed us when he brought in a corrupt cop. He shamed us when he got caught. He is Santoro. Alessandro slammed his fist on the table, making the glasses jump. So am I said, my voice dropping back to a whisper. It was Pietro who spoke. He had been silent the entire time. He turned his tired eyes to Alessandro. Alessandro, you forget the words of Luca's mother. You forget what she taught him. Pietro closed his eyes, reciting the words from memory. She always said, power is not for you. It is for those you protect. Protect those beneath you, or your power is meaningless. It is just noise. The room went quiet. Alessandro's rage deflated. My mother's word was law, even after all this time. I stood up. I did not move toward Adrian. The fight was over. The violence was finished. Jonas, I said. Jonas Hale stepped forward, away from the wall, and he was not alone. 2 of my other men loyal to me, not to my uncle, stepped in from the hallway. They did not draw weapons. They were simply large. They were walls of muscle and loyalty. Adrian, I said, we're going to have one last conversation about which of the 3 options you are going to choose. I will not, Adrian spat, his eyes darting toward his cousins. They looked down at their plates. Jonas, take him to the wine cellar, I said, the small one, not the usual room. Not the usual room was our code. It meant the room was clean. It meant it was equipped with high-fidelity microphones and a hidden camera. Adrian thought he was going to be beaten. He was wrong. He was going to be recorded, giving a full confession. Jonas and the men moved. They did not grab Adrian. They simply surrounded him. A solid wall of suits. This way, sir, Jonas said. Adrian looked at Alessandro. A desperate, final plea. My uncle said nothing. He just stared at his empty plate. The family had made its choice. My brother, defeated, turned and walked out of the room, my men guiding him. The final negotiation was about to begin. The wine cellar at La Volta is not a cellar. It is a vault, solid concrete, climate-controlled and soundproof. The room is small, lined with racks of wine that cost more than most houses. It smells of old grapes and damp earth. Adrian was sitting at a small, steel tasting table. He was sweating, despite the chill. The suit he had worn with such arrogance upstairs was now rumpled, his collar damp. Jonas Hale stood by the only door. He was as still as the racks of wine. I walked in. I slid the clear evidence bag across the table. The bespoke lighter with the fox engraving clicked softly as it hit the steel. Adrian looked at it. He tried to muster his old confidence. "I told you," he sneered, his voice thin. "I do not use those. That is not mine." "I know," I said. I sat down opposite him. "It never was. You carry that battered old Zippo to make you look like a man of the people, a prop. But this," I tapped the bag, "this is real." I leaned in. "You also do not know the 3-note whistle to call the service elevator. You do not have a master key for the B2 level. You do not wear a size 44 chevron tread boot. And you," I said, "are not stupid enough to steal a $3,000 bottle of whiskey on your way out the door." Adrian's face went blank. The calculation was happening behind his eyes. He was realizing the trap was not for him, not just for him. "But Neil Ramirez does all of those things," I said. "He got that lighter from the Fox and Cedar, his favorite bar. He wears those boots. He has the key. And he has the arrogance." I laid out the story for him, the one I had pieced together from the dust and the smells and the sounds. "You were the mastermind. You wanted Riley Carter silenced. She must have found out about your side business, the Morrison loans, the ones you run at 100% interest, bleeding your own clients dry. She must have seen a ledger, heard a name. So you gave the order." Adrian opened his mouth, but I cut him off. "You gave Ramirez the time and the place. You gave him the key card, Zora Cade's key card." "You cannot prove that," he hissed. "I already did," I said. "We picked up the rookie, Marcus Thorne, the new security hire. He confessed an hour ago. He said you paid him $10,000 to lift Zora Cade's card from her bag while she was meeting with you last week. He said you promised him another $10,000 to plant the jammer. His mother has cancer. He needed the money for her treatment. You did not just buy his loyalty. Adrian, you bought his desperation." My brother had no words. He just stared at me. "But Ramirez made the mistakes," I went on. "He was so confident, so arrogant. He even bragged about it." I nodded to Jonas. Jonas did not move, but he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small, digital audio recorder. He pressed a button. The recording was not clean. It was muffled, recorded from inside Jonas's suit jacket as he stood by the door of the dining room, just before he took Adrian away. I heard the clink of silverware from the hall, and then, clearly, Neil Ramirez's voice. He must have been on his phone in the hallway. "Do not worry about it," Ramirez's voice said, full of smug confidence. "Santoro's system is a joke. A $20 jammer from an online spy shop is all it took. 17 seconds, child's play." I nodded. Jonas turned the recorder off. He was on the phone with one of his precinct buddies, right outside the dining room, I said. He thought he was invisible. He thought he was untouchable. I pushed the lighter across the table one last time. And this, the final piece. Jonas's team put it under a microscope, and there is a speck of paint, barley corn yellow, wedged in the hinge. It is the exact custom mixed color of the Emberline's kitchen walls. He did not just drop this in the stairwell. He was in my kitchen. He was stealing my whiskey. He left his signature everywhere. Adrian Santoro finally broke. He slumped forward, putting his head in his hands. He was not a monster. He was just a spoiled, vicious child, and his toys had just been taken away. "What now?" "Luca," he whispered. "You kill me." "I am not you, Adrian," I said. "I do not solve my problems with murder." I slid a second set of documents across the table. They were from Maya Kaplan. They were thick. "This is a full confession. And this," I tapped the second stack, "is a complete, irrevocable transfer of assets. Every Morrison account, the Lakeview apartment you hide, the bonds, everything. You will sign it. It will all be placed in a blind trust. The beneficiary will be Riley Carter. You will pay for what you did, not with your blood, with your money." He looked up, his eyes wide. "You would take everything." "You tried to take her life," I said. "I am just taking your lifestyle." Sign it." He picked up the pen. His hand was shaking. He signed every page. "And Ramirez?" he asked, his voice hollow. "Ramirez is a different problem. I cannot touch a Chicago police lieutenant," I said. "But I do not have to. I am sending the entire file, the audio recording, the boot print analysis, the financial link between you and him, the confession from Marcus Thorne to Internal Affairs, not his friends in the downtown bureau. I am sending it to the deputy chief, a man who loathes Ramirez and cannot be bought. Ramirez will not be arrested, but he will be hung out to dry. He will lose his badge. He will lose his pension. He will lose everything he built on a foundation of corruption. He is finished." I stood up. "As for you, you chose option 1, exile." I pulled a small envelope from my pocket, a one-way ticket. "There is a flight to Rome. It leaves at 2:40 in the morning. That is in 3 hours. Jonas will escort you to O'Hare. He will walk you to the gate. He will watch you get on the plane, and he will take a photograph of your boarding pass." I leaned down, so my face was close to his. "If you ever set foot in Chicago again, if you even breathe the air in this state, I will not be this merciful. The next time, I will choose option 3. I will burn you." I left him there. Jonas followed me out, locking the vault door. "Have him taken out the back," I told Jonas, "and send a copy of that photograph to my uncle." When I returned to the dining room, only Alessandro and Pietro remained. The cousins had fled. My uncle was standing by the window, his face a mask of cold fury. "You have done it," he whispered as I entered. "You have broken the family. You have chosen a whore over your own blood." "I chose justice over a criminal," I said. "The blood did not matter. The act did." "This will not stand, Luca," Alessandro said, turning to face me. "I will not let you destroy this family. This will mean a civil war. I will tear down everything you have built." I did not raise my voice. I walked to the table, picked up my napkin, and folded it. "No, Uncle, you will not." He laughed. "You think I fear you, boy." "You should not fear me," and I said, "You should fear her." I tapped my temple. "Maya Kaplan, she has the entire package, every piece of evidence, the audio of Ramirez, the signed confession from Adrian, the financial statements from the Morrison accounts, which, by the way, implicate half of your own crew in illegal loan sharking. It is all in a digital safe deposit box. If I am harmed, if Riley Carter is so much as looked at the wrong way, she has standing orders to release the entire file. Not just to the Federals, to every newspaper in this city. You will not be fighting a civil war. You will be fighting for a spot in a low-security prison, and you will lose." Alessandro's face went pale. He finally understood. I had not just caught a killer. I had secured my own kingdom. "This is not how your father would have done this," he said, his voice weak. "I know," I said. "That is why I am in charge." I left him there, in the empty room. The safe house was quiet. The snow had started to slow, the wind dying down. Riley was sitting on a sofa, a thick blanket wrapped around her. She looked up when I entered. Her eyes were sharp, searching. I told her everything: the wine cellar, the confession, the exile, the file on Ramirez. When I finished, she was silent for a long time. "You did not kill him," she finally said. It was not a question. "No," I said. "I gave you my word. No blood, and I did not frame him. The evidence was real, all of it." She looked at me, and for the first time, I did not see fear. I saw understanding. I had respected her boundary. I had used my power not for violence, but for order. "The rookie guard," I added. "Marcus Thorne, the one who stole the key card for Adrian." I told her about his sick mother, about the money. He was a loose end, a victim in his own way. I am making sure his mother's medical bills are paid, anonymously. And then he will be given a new job, in a new city, far from here. She nodded slowly. "You are paying for his silence." "No," I said. "I am paying for his mother's life. His silence is just a fortunate byproduct. My brother used his desperation. I am choosing to end it." I looked out the window. The storm was breaking, the clouds were thinning, and I could see the first faint light of morning over the lake. My phone vibrated. It was a text from Jonas. It was a single photograph. Adrian, looking small and defeated, holding up his boarding pass at the gate. He was gone. Ramirez was a ghost. The snow was stopping. The immediate threat was over. The lakeshore penthouse was a cage. No matter how gilded, the safe house had served its purpose. But I saw the way Riley paced it. She was a healer, and she was trapped. She needed her own walls. I found a condominium in a high-rise on the Gold Coast. It was not my building. The security was independent, vetted by Jonas, but not on my payroll. It was sterile, anonymous, perfect. I made the mistake of arranging the lease. When I presented it to her, she shook her head. We were in Maya Kaplan's office, the first time Riley had left the safe house in a week. No, Riley said. Her voice was quiet but unbreakable. The lease will be in my name, Riley Carter, only... I looked at Maya. Maya looked at me. She's right, Luca. The money has to be clean. The separation has to be total. Adrian's exile had come at a price. His primary asset, the sprawling apartment on Lakeview, was the first thing Maya seized. It was not transferred to Riley. That would have been a gift, a string. Instead, Maya, with my backing, established the Second Light Fund, a new state-chartered organization for victims of violent crime. The Lakeview apartment was its first and only asset. Riley, as the fund's primary claimant, then exercised her right. She had the fund sell the property. The check, for a staggering amount, was made out to her. It was not my money. It was restitution. It was blood money, laundered by a judge's signature. She took that check. She walked into a different bank, and she opened her own account. From that account, she paid the deposit on the Gold Coast apartment. She signed her own lease. No strings, she said to me, her hand steady as she slid the signed paper back to the building manager. No strings, I confirmed. The words felt foreign in my mouth. She did not stop there. With the remainder of the funds, she bought a fire-damaged 3-flat in Wicker Park. She showed me the architectural plans one afternoon. It will be the new Second Light, she said, her finger tracing a floor plan. Not a safe house, a landing pad, a place for people to go when their homes are not safe anymore. They can stay for 6 months, no questions asked. She was taking the rubble of her attack and building a fortress for others. The bruises on her ribs and throat faded, the physical wounds closed, but Dr. Elena Marquez, who continued to see her, was focused on the unseen. The hypervigilance is profound, Luca, Elena told me, meeting me for coffee in a place so public it was sterile. She has post-traumatic stress. She cannot be in an elevator with a man. She wakes up at 3 a.m, convinced she is suffocating. The bones heal. She tapped her own temple. This takes work. While Elena worked on her mind, Jonas worked on the digital footprint. He tracked the origin of the Battery Saver Pro stalkerware. It was not a sophisticated state actor. It is a kid in a basement in Estonia, Jonas reported, disgusted. He sells the source code for $50. He's not a spy. He's just a cheap developer feeding a disgusting market. Jonas's team did not fly to Estonia. They simply launched a targeted, overwhelming denial-of-service attack that dissolved the developer's servers. At the same time, Maya Kaplan's international office filed a complaint that froze his bank accounts. The threat was neutralized. This, too, gave Riley a new focus. She started speaking. First to a small support group. Then she agreed to be an anonymous voice for a digital safety seminar. She spoke about checking app permissions, about the danger of public Wi-Fi, about how to document digital harassment. She was turning her fear into a curriculum. My world, however, did not heal so cleanly. My uncle Alessandro was furious. He was bound by Maya's legal threat, the digital dead man switch that held his own finances hostage. He could not attack me directly, so he attacked me from the side. A sudden, unannounced audit of my shipping manifests, a fabricated health code violation at one of my restaurants, a minor labor dispute at the docks that cost me 2 days of shipping. It was death by 1,000 paper cuts. It was Pietro Vescari who finally ended it. The old consigliere, who served my father, scheduled a meeting with Alessandro. He did not go as my representative. He went as an auditor. He is quieted, Pietro told me later, stirring his espresso. I simply pointed out that if he invited federal auditors to look at your books, they would inevitably find the ledgers that connect to his. I reminded him that tax evasion is a very vulgar and very effective charge. Pietro spent the next month cleaning the Santoro Group's finances. He closed every loophole. He paid every outstanding tax. Adrian's corruption had, in the end, forced the entire family to become legitimate. I, in turn, cleaned my own house, the Ember Line. The 3-note whistle code for the service elevator was eliminated. It was replaced by a rolling digital key, changing every hour. We implemented a zero-trust access policy. Every employee, even Jonas, had to scan their credentials to move between floors. And for the rookies, the men like Marcus Thorne, I established a new discretionary fund, a scholarship for their children, an emergency medical grant. If my men were not desperate, they could not be bought. I was not just investing in security. I was investing in loyalty. A month passed. The ice on the lake broke. The city thawed. I picked up the phone. "I would like to take you to dinner," I said. She was quiet for a long moment. "A date?" "Yes. I have a condition," she said. "Name it." "A normal place? Not La Volta? Not the Ember Line? No guards standing at the door. No one watching me eat. Just dinner. And," she added, "I am driving myself." It was the most dangerous thing I had agreed to all year. We met at a small, loud, crowded restaurant in Lincoln Park. I hated it. Every person who walked in the door was a potential threat. I felt skinned alive. The hostess tried to seat us in the center of the room. "No," I said. "We will take the table in the back, by the kitchen." As we sat, Riley looked at me. "Why this table?" "It is the last one in the room," I said instinctively. "It has a clear view of the front door, and the kitchen door provides a secondary exit." She stared at me. Then she did something I had not seen her do yet. She smiled, a real smile. "You cannot turn it off, can you?" "No," I admitted. "That is all right," she said, picking up her menu. "As long as you are giving me the choice to be here. As long as I can use the exit, too." We ate. We did not talk about Adrian. We did not talk about the attack. We talked about her work, about the ridiculous music. It was painfully, terrifyingly normal. Jonas and his team were a block away, in 3 separate cars, listening to a live feed from a microphone in my jacket. She did not need to know that. The piece held for exactly 2 weeks. Then the package arrived. It was delivered to my office at the Ember Line, a small, square box, wrapped in brown paper, no return address. Jonas X-rayed it. It was not a bomb. I opened it. Inside, on a bed of cheap cotton, was a heavy gold signet ring, the Santoro family crest. It was Adrian's. Underneath the ring was a small, typed note card. "See you soon." The blood drained from my face. "He is back," I whispered. "Get me the flight manifest from Rome, now." "Luca." Jonas's voice was calm. He was already examining the box, the paper, the note. "He is not back." "That is his ring." "Yes, but look at the ink." Jonas pointed to the note. "It is a standard blue-black, slightly faded. The paper is cheap. High cellulose bond, government supply closet." He shined a small ultraviolet light on the postage stamp. "Paid from a commercial meter. Inside the main post office. The one directly across the street from the Central Police Precinct." Ramirez, when he had lost his badge, but not his arrogance. This was not an attack. This was psychological warfare. A reminder that he was still out there. My first instinct was rage, the old way, to find him and remove him from the board. I looked at the ring. I thought of Riley, sitting across from me at dinner, finally smiling. I thought of my promise. "No," I said. I pushed the rage down. It was a tool, but one I would not use. Not for this. Jonas, I said, my voice steady. Archive this. The ring, the note, the box. Photograph everything, log it as evidence. I want new cameras installed in the lobby of Riley's building. Full street coverage. I want a car in her block. 24 hours a day. I turned to my desk and called Maya Kaplan. Maya, I want you to send a registered letter to Neil Ramirez at his home address. Inform him that any further contact, direct or indirect, with myself or Miss Carter will be considered harassment and a violation of his severance agreement, and inform him that a violation will result in the immediate release of the Alessandro files to the press. He's to have no contact, ever. I hung up. I was not using violence. I was using a legal threat of mutually assured destruction. That night, I could not settle. I drove to her building. I did not call. I did not go up. I just sat in my car across the street, watching the light in her window. It was almost 3 a.m. I was waiting to see the light go out. I must have fallen asleep. I woke when I heard the main door of her building click open. I looked up. It was Riley. She was wearing sweatpants and a robe, holding a pillow and a blanket. She walked straight across the street to my car. I powered down the window. Riley, what are you doing? Go back inside. I cannot sleep, she said, her voice muffled by the pillow. I knew you were out there. I saw your car an hour ago. I'm watching the building. I know, she said. You're bad at it. You're obvious. She sighed. I cannot sleep with my door locked. The sound of the deadbolt, it makes me feel trapped, like I cannot get out. So I have been leaving it unlocked, just a little ajar. She looked at me, her eyes exhausted. But I knew you were down here, so I knew it was safe. She turned and walked back into the lobby. She did not go to the elevator. She went to the sofa in the corner, dropped her pillow, and lay down. I got out of my car. I walked into the lobby. The night doorman nodded at me. I did not go to her. I just stood by the front glass, looking out at the dark street. I stood watch. My shadow fell long across the marble floor, a line of darkness that stretched across the room, stopping just inches from where she finally, deeply, slept. I was protecting her, but I was not touching her. I was letting her rest. The second light building in Wicker Park was no longer a burned-out shell. It was a skeleton of steel beams and new plywood, smelling of sawdust and potential. Riley lived there now, in a small apartment on the 3rd floor, overseeing the construction. I found her on the roof, coils of electrical wire at her feet, sketching on a notepad the city spread out around us, cold and bright in the winter afternoon. She had started speaking quietly at first. She held sessions at a local community center. She never used her name. She never mentioned me or Adrian. She just called herself a survivor. I had Jonas sit in on one, from the back. He said the room was packed. She did not just talk about the fear. She gave them tools. She taught them how to check their phones for stalkerware, how to document bruises with a date-stamped photo, how to open a bank account with no paper trail. She was giving them what I had given her, an escape route. I stood there on that rooftop, the wind pulling at my coat. She looked up from her sketch, her pen poised. She was not the same woman I had seen bleeding in my garage. She was not afraid of me. She was not afraid of anything. The work is almost done, Nar, she said, gesturing to the framing. We open in 2 weeks. I know. I said, I had not come to talk about the construction. I had been holding a small velvet box in my pocket for a week. It felt heavy. It felt wrong. I looked at her, at the woman who had built a fortress from her own pain. I took the box out of my pocket. I did not open it. I just held it out. I was going to do this. I said, the ring, the kneeling, the whole performance. She looked at the box, then at me. She did not move. I closed my hand around the box and put it back in my pocket. It is the wrong move, I said. It is a promise of perfection. It is a symbol of ownership, and that is not what this is. I stepped closer to her. So I will just say it. I am not a good man. Riley. I live in a world of shadows and violence, but you You make me want to be a better one. I cannot promise you a perfect life. I cannot promise you a safe one, but I can promise effort. I can promise that I will listen to you, always. I can promise that I will respect every boundary you set. And I promise I will spend the rest of my life trying to be the man you already think I am. I did not ask her to marry me. I just stood there. She put down her notepad. She stepped forward into my space. And for the first time, she was the one to initiate the contact. She put her cold hands on my chest. "Luca," she said, her voice clear, "I do not need perfect. I just need honest. I just need this." "Is that a yes?" "It is a yes," she said, "but we are going in with our eyes open." The eyes open part was Maya Kaplan. We sat in Maya's pristine office 2 days later. Maya slid a document across the table. It was over 100 pages long. "This," Maya said, "is the prenuptial agreement." I expected it. I reached for a pen. "Read it, Luca," Riley said. I read it. It was not a simple division of assets. It was a fortress of words. My finances were to remain mine. Her finances, including the entirety of the Second Light Fund, were to remain hers, untouchable. It stipulated that my business, the Santoro Group, could never be named as a beneficiary, and she could never be held liable for its actions. But it was the personal clauses that were the real architecture. It stipulated a safety boundary. If I, or any of my associates, ever made her feel physically unsafe, she had the right to immediate separation, full custody of any future children, and a permanent restraining order, all pre-signed by me and held in escrow by Maya. It named Jonas Hale as the independent arbiter of any such dispute. It was the most ruthless, one-sided contract I'd ever seen. I looked up at Riley. She was watching me, her jaw set. I picked up the pen. "Where do I sign?" Maya raised an eyebrow. "You are not going to fight it." "She's telling me what she needs to feel safe," I said, signing my name. "My only job is to listen." My own house needed one last repair. My father was still alive. Barely. He lived in the old house in Lake Forest, a ghost rattling around a mansion, kept alive by nurses and memories. I had not seen him in a year. I found him on a sun porch, a blanket over his knees. His eyes were milky, but his mind was still sharp. "So," he wheezed as I sat down, "you cast out your brother. Alessandro is furious. You have turned the family inside out. For a girl." "I did it for the family." "Father," I said, my voice quiet. "Adrian was a cancer. Alessandro was a fool. They were operating on the old rules. They believed respect was fear. They were wrong." "It is how I built this," he argued, his voice thin as paper. "It is how my father built it. Loyalty, blood, above all." "No," I said. "That is the generational fault. You enabled him. You enabled Alessandro. You let the violence grow because it was family. You let the rot spread. You taught us that loyalty was more important than decency." I leaned forward. "That ends. The new standard is respect first. Loyalty second. We will be powerful. Yes, but we will be we will protect those who cannot protect themselves. We will not be the ones they need protection from. My mother understood that. You did not." He stared at me for a long time. Then, for the first time in my life, he looked away from me, ashamed. She was always better than me, Luca. "I know," I said. "I am trying to be." We saw Jonas and Dr. Elena Marquez at La Volta a week later. They were at a small table, in a corner. They were not on a case. They were sharing a bottle of wine. Jonas was actually smiling. Elena was laughing. It was a small, warm thing, a piece of light in the shadows. Our wedding was not at a church. It was not at La Volta. It was in the main community room of the Second Light building. The room was full of folding chairs, fluorescent lights, and the smell of fresh paint. The guests were the construction crew, the survivors from Riley's support group, Jonas, Elena, and Pietro. My uncle, Alessandro, I was not invited. He had been silent ever since Pietro had delivered a small, leather-bound dossier to his home. It was not a threat. It was just a summary, a neat, precise summary of all his own financial misdeeds, the ones I had uncovered while cleaning Adrian's mess. It was a simple reminder, don't try it. Riley wore a simple white dress. She held no flowers. She walked down the aisle alone. When she reached me, she was smiling. The justice of the peace. A woman Riley had helped through her program. Read the simple vows. There was no talk of obeying. There was only talk of partnership. Later that night, the snow began to fall again. A light, clean snow. We were on the roof, the party long over. It was quiet. Just the sound of the city, far below. Riley shivered. The air was cold. I took off my heavy wool coat. I did not ask. I did not command. I just draped it over her shoulders. She looked up at me. The last time she had stood in the snow, she had been terrified, bleeding in my garage. Now, she stood on the roof of the building she had built, wrapped in my coat, and she was not afraid. She leaned into me, turning her face up to the night sky. The next week, she officially expanded the Second Light program. She added a new division, safety consulting and secure home renovations. Her first big contract was to retrofit the Emberline. Her first new hire was Marcus Thorne, the rookie guard who had been bought by Adrian. Riley offered him a full scholarship, paid for by the fund, to get his engineering degree. In return, he would work for her, managing the building's new security. She had not just forgiven him, she had invested in him, ensuring his loyalty could never be for sale again. The peace held. It was a strange, new feeling. It was quiet. Until this morning. I was in my office, signing payroll. An email popped up in my secure inbox. It was from an anonymous, encrypted address. There was no text, just one attachment. I opened it. It was a photograph, a close-up, a steel lighter engraved with a fox, sitting on the counter of a dark, wood-paneled bar. I recognized the lighter, but I did not recognize the bar, and in the background, a newspaper. The headline was not in English, it was in Spanish. The dateline read, Buenos Aires. I closed the email. The game was not over. It was just expanding. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I am curious. Where in the world are you listening from right now? Let me know in the comments so we can all connect and share our thoughts. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to my channel, Mafia Boss Stories, and give this video a like. And if you really loved it, please support us by hitting that hype button. It helps get this story out to more people.